Hey, you heading out on time? I glanced up and saw my boss Barry Masters peeking into my office with that same silly grin he always has when he comes over for dinner. He loves to joke with my wife about how he's gonna steal her away. Let me back up a bit. I'm Bill Jackson Minsky, but most folks just call me Billy Jack or Jacko. I'm a 35-year-old account exec at a marketing agency in Houston. Just wondering if you're leaving on time. Big shot agencies in New York or LA might sound all fancy with power, money, and respect, but at Beam & Sons, it just means I do all the work while Barry sits on his lazy ass reading trashy romance novels. Like, seriously. Not only is he reading those books meant for lonely housewives, but he's also getting off on them. And now he's in my office, asking if I'll leave on time, even though he knows I will because he hired Amy, the intern. Wow, look at all those cool jugs and a bomb to top it off. Getting out of the office on time hasn't been a problem, but tonight's the night I finally told him I had some stuff to take care of and would be out in half an hour. Okay, I'll grab some food at the Royal Fork, but you and Lynn better be ready when I get there. And Jacko, I mean really ready. Lynn was supposed to be naked while I had to wear my chastity device. I know most guys wouldn't see me as a real man, but hey, I do what I gotta do to get by. I actually met my wife Lynn at a Christmas party thrown by a local bank 10 years ago. They were Barry's biggest customer and their loyalty to us really helped keep the agency going. Since I was the main account manager, I got invited to the party too. Lynn worked as a teller at their drive-through location. I spent the night chatting with some of the staff I had met before. I was talking to the loan department manager about a golf trip they had planned for after Christmas. It turns out his usual partner was going through some stuff. Man, Barry's divorce is a real mess. He's been getting a hard time and even got kicked out of his own golf club when it closed over the holidays. So, I decided to join in on a round of golf with some folks from the club. As we were chatting about our scores, I couldn't help but notice a few ladies gravitating towards our group. One particularly attractive blonde in a tight black dress caught my eye. She asked why none of the bank tellers were invited to the outing. Her cleavage was practically bursting out of her top. It was hard not to notice. I was staring at her like a hawk watching a field mouse when she asked, "So, what's your handicap?" I almost didn't realize she was talking to me. Now, I'm no brain surgeon or expert on the human mind, so I can't explain why the only word that came out of my mouth in response to her golf question was fantastic. Everyone started laughing and my cheeks turned red. "That's hilarious," someone said. "Why can't I come up with cool answers like that?" they asked. "So, this other chick in the black party dress and crazy heels, right?" She starts laughing and says, "Well, looks like you'll be stuck in the sand traps all day." Luckily, I managed to play it off as a joke. I highly doubt I'll be stuck in the traps all day. Not many scratch golfers do. Then Bob chimes in, "Are you a scratch golfer?" I'm like, "Nah, but that would be nice." Everyone starts cracking up again. I didn't bother mentioning that I was close to going to Q school before Barry hired me. The conversation goes back to golf, and I'm just happy to be there. If I hadn't worn myself out, Barry wouldn't have had as much fun. After the group split up, I ended up back at the bar. "Want to buy me a drink?" I turned to see the girl in the little black dress with crystal blue eyes. "No, but I'll get one for you as an apology for my slip-up," I said. She laughed and we chatted all night. When the party was over, she kissed me goodnight and headed to her car. "I'll see you at the golf course, sir. Just wait until you see my outfit." I was like, damn, imagining her in some tight shorts or a little skirt bending over to grab her ball out of the cup. And then as I said goodbye, I just knew Barry and his wife Joan were probably off hooking up with somebody. Like, they only go to these events to meet new people to hook up with. I mean, I wondered if they even did it with each other, and I started to question if Barry was really the dad of all his sons that nobody has ever seen. When I first started working for Barry, Joan kept hitting on me a bunch of times. In the end, it made me think about my own values. I was so scared Barry was gonna sack me, so I never took Joan up on her offers. To be honest, it was probably a good thing I dodged a few social diseases that way. On Wednesday morning, I went to the golf club and saw the group at the back. It was a damp and chilly day, so I thought everyone would be wearing long pants instead of shorts. I'm from Wyoming and I pretty much always wear shorts, except for when I'm at work. Half of the people didn't show up to the party, and when I got there, they were trying to figure out how to split 13 people. Bob was probably involved in that mess. Billy was really happy to see me and said he was glad I showed up. We were supposed to have 5 or 6 people for our group, but as you can see, we're way short of that number. Would you be cool with playing in a threesome? I said I was fine with it. I felt really sad that Lynn wasn't there at the event. I was supposed to be in a foursome with Jerry Montez, a commercial loan officer. But when someone from the first group didn't show up on time, Bob asked Jerry to join them. My new partner still hadn't arrived when the second group started. I was just about to grab the tee box when Bob was trying to figure out what to do. Okay, Billy, here's your partner. Try not to fall into any traps. As the gang started laughing, I turned to see my partner coming over. Sorry, I got held up trying to buy some teas. I turned around and came face to face with Lynn. She was wearing a purple fleece pullover and thick knit yoga pants. The jumper covered up any cleavage, but the pants really showed off her curves. Where is everyone? She asked. Bob guessed that the first group is probably already on the green. Would you like to join them? Hey, wanna join in on a round of golf with Billy here? She winked at me, but only if he's got some cash. Oh, by the way, we always bet on everything during a foursome, drinks, tricks, you name it. Bob mentioned that the highest score buys drinks at the turn. Hope you brought enough money, Billy, she said. I ain't saying nothing, Bob laughed as he teed off. He hit what looked like a good drive, and the foursome headed down the fairway. Lynn and I followed along. I was talking to the tee box ladies first when she bent over to get her tea ready. I was checking out her butt as she was bending over to set up her stuff. Stop staring at my butt, you creep, she said. Did she have eyes in the crack of her butt or what? I wasn't even looking in her direction. I saw your buddy hacking away in the rough over there, I replied. She stood up and looked down the fairway where a man was swinging his club like crazy in the deep grass about 100 yards away. She said, I didn't mean to make you feel like a creep, by the way. I just assumed that you were. Yeah, you just assumed I was staring, I retorted. Damn, girl. That was a great shot. I'm gonna have to watch out for you, Buster. But hey, I get to check out your ass while you tee up, so it's all good. Okay, I trust you can drive now. As she stood there on the green, she took a swing and hit the ball about 170 yards. Then she smirked at me and said, beat that, Mr. Nice Guy. I walked up to the black tie box and placed my ball on the tee. If I can do better, what do I get? I asked. If you outdrive me from there, I'll play the back nine in my tight white shorts and tank top, she joked. So, I was out on the course, right, and this chick starts wiggling her ass, and I've never played with such a cheerful little dude before, so I didn't know how it would mess with my swing. I took a deep breath, lined up my shot, and then she starts talking smack while I'm getting ready. She's going on about my butt and then she jokes that I should finish the back nine in just my undies. Luckily, I managed to ignore her and hit a massive 280-yard drive that curved perfectly and landed just short of the green. I turned around and said, I bet your butt would look great in those shorts. All she could come back with was, crap. I gotta say, I had a great time watching her play golf in those tight white shorts and tank top. And hey, I didn't even have to pay for our first 3 dates. 3 months later, we were officially exclusive. I quickly found out she thought Barry was a total jerk. We were finishing up dinner when she asked if there were any other women at my office, probably worried I was messing around. I told her the only woman there was Jane, a 65-year-old grandma who just answered phones and made coffee. I bet that weirdo still checks out her chest though. Lynn was cracking up when I showed her the picture of Barry staring at Jane's boobs. I laughed too, picturing her smacking him with her huge purse. Jane's parents came in from San Diego for Thanksgiving and stayed with her for a week. I met them on Thanksgiving morning and we all enjoyed the meal Jane and her mom cooked. After dinner, I offered to bring Jane a piece of pie, but instead of a slice, I brought out a ring on a pie plate and proposed to her, just like George Carlin once joked about. I noticed that people don't seem to have much sex around Thanksgiving. He definitely wasn't there that Thanksgiving. Lynn's parents went back to their hotel and then she kept screwing my brains out. We got married on a yacht in Galveston the next May, and my parents gave me a house in a fancy Pasadena neighborhood as a pre-wedding gift. That way, even if you end up in divorce court, you'll still have a place to live, sonny boy. Those were my dad's wise words as he gave me the keys. I promised him. I told them that divorce wasn't on the cards for me, but I thanked them for caring. Lynn and I moved in together after our honeymoon and spent the first 4 years of our marriage settling into our lives. I couldn't complain about our romantic life, but other aspects of our life were lacking. When Lynn and I first got together, she barely made ends meet. I thought it was because she didn't earn much as a bank teller. As they say, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. I let Lynn handle our finances for the first 6 months of our marriage because I assumed she was capable. She was smart with money because she worked at a bank. I thought I was good with money too, but it took me a year and a half to get us back on track. I kept neglecting utility bills and getting shut-off notices. We had some long talks and arguments. I even slept on the couch a few nights. Eventually, my better money management led to some savings, but it didn't last. 2 years later, we were back to square one. Her income mostly went to pay off her credit card debt, while my salary covered everything else. Barry didn't contribute much. They weren't paying me enough, so I was thinking about looking for a new job. But I knew that most good companies don't really care about experience from small-time places. The week everything went downhill started just like any other. I paid my bills, bought groceries, filled up the gas tank, and even managed to save a few bucks just in case. Work was going fine until Monday morning when Barry called Walt into his office. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could hear Walt's voice. They were getting louder by the minute, yelling at each other. The only thing I heard clearly was Walter telling Barry that Marion and Joan were both useless, dumped for someone else, and he hoped Barry's car would break down. I didn't know who Marion was, but Barry didn't seem bothered that his wife was being called a cheater, probably because it was true. Walt bolted out of Barry's office as soon as he saw me, heading straight for my desk. Barry was telling Jane to call the cops. I quickly went to my workstation and told Jacko, "You better watch out. Keep an eye out." I was just about to ask Walt what I did to piss him off when Barry told him to get lost or he'd call the cops. Walt cursed at him and called him a jerk before storming out. Then he warned Jacko to watch his back for the rest of the day. Walt's words kept replaying in my head until I almost got hit by a speeding truck as I got off the highway. I was relieved that the driver's brakes worked better than my brain, otherwise I would have been toast. When I got home, the first thing I saw was Lynn chilling on the couch. Normally she's at work until 7 o'clock. I walked in and there she was, lounging on a brand new white couch. When I left for work in the morning, that couch wasn't there, no matching love seat or chairs either. "Hey there, baby," she greeted me. "You like it?" Turns out she took the day off and went furniture shopping at the Galleria. She fell in love with this set and bought it right then and there. "You mad, honey? Did they throw in a freebie?" she joked, like I got a deal or something. "Man, I scored a sweet deal by opening up a new account at the store. Got us some great payment options." All I could do was grin, because I knew if I started cussing, we'd be fighting all night. So instead, I just smiled and headed to the den to see how much trouble she had caused. After figuring it all out, I realized I couldn't afford to take a pay cut to switch careers. I hated the thought of being a slave just to please Barry. The only upside was that after Lynn bought something like that, I got a little something too. So, after dinner, we were chilling on her fancy couch watching TV. I started trying to make some moves by licking her earlobes and trying to sneak a hand under her skirt, but she shut me down real quick, saying we're not doing anything on that couch. But she did say I could try my luck in bed. She must have known what I was thinking. I was so tired the next morning when I got to work, my mind was still on Lynn while she was passed out on her stomach with a pillow that I had made her all sweaty. Man, I was a mess before I finished. I knew she was gonna come in late or leave work early, she always does after a wild night like that. I was so tired, but a couple cups of coffee got me back on track. When Barry showed up at work, he gave me a strange look as he walked past me to his office. I didn't really pay attention to him though, so his look didn't mean much to me. About 10 minutes later, this gorgeous young lady walked into the office. Jane greeted her and asked if she needed help. The lady, Amy Stewart, said she had a 9 o'clock appointment with Mr. Barry. Jane answered the phone and said, "You can keep talking." Miss Stewart pointed to Barry's office. I called Lynn later, she was at home just as I expected. "You didn't go to work, baby?" I asked her. I was a little annoyed, but also proud. I called to say I would be late. She replied, "Someone tired me out last night. Is that person ready to tire me out again tonight? You know who he is, baby." After a few minutes, we hung up. I was setting up an ad when Barry. "So, this guy here is Jacko. We call him Jacko because his real name is a mouthful. And this is Amy, she's filling in for Walt and will be shadowing you for a few days," he said before heading back to his office. "I'm Bill, but you can call me Jacko," I introduced myself as Amy extended her hand. I had this urge to kiss her hand like they do in the movies. "Can I call you Bill?" she asked. I gave her the go-ahead and we went about our day, showing her the ropes. I was hanging on to my sanity while trying not to stare at her. It was exciting. Of course, I wasn't surprised that Barry kept butting in. I was a bit worried at first that Barry hired Amy because she was hot, but she proved herself to be a skilled advertising pro. I was confused why she would work for a crappy agency like Barry's when she could have been a big shot on Madison Avenue. That night, I went home and hooked up with Lynn again, but we didn't stay up all night like before. So I was feeling pretty fresh when I got to work the next day around noon. Then Barry called me into his office looking all pissed off. Turns out, I messed up big time. He showed me this ad for a car dealership where I used to work, saying they were gonna have a $1,500 drawing. But I remembered seeing the ad and it actually said $5,000. Alan, the owner, was super mad and threatened to fire me. So, I managed to calm him down and we're about to put out a new ad. "Jacko, I really should just fire you right now, but I've got a better idea. How about I come over to your place for dinner tonight? I love fish, by the way. I want to chat about this situation with you and Lynn before making any decisions. I'll be there at 6 o'clock. I didn't get why that jerk wanted to bring my wife into this, but I knew she couldn't stand him and would definitely stand up to him. I didn't think too much about it as the day went on. "Hey Lynn," I asked, "does that loser want me to do?" After I told her about my mistake and Barry's idea, she said, "This dirty old prick probably just wants to stare at your boobs for a while tonight, or maybe he'll ask us to join them for a swingers party." I told her, "Buddy, I'll cut off your junk before you lay a finger on Joan Masters. And if I ever saw Barry Masters bare, I'd probably gouge my eyes out with a rusty spoon," she said, shuddering. I shivered, too. I'd cut off my own junk before touching her. Dinner was good, but I was annoyed that Barry kept staring at me. So I noticed that the wife was constantly moving around to avoid letting him get a good look at her body, even though it was hot as hell in late spring. She put on a long-sleeved turtleneck sweater after dinner. Barry said, "All right, we had a great dinner," and then he looked at Lynn and said, "Very nice dinner, my dear." She blushed a bit before thanking him. He cracked his knuckles and said, "I don't know if you know this, Lynn, but your husband almost screwed up a big account for me today." I had to hold back a laugh because Lynn and I always talked about how Barry thinks he knows it all. He was like the big boss of Madison Avenue even though he only runs a small business. I don't think we should punish him if he saved it, because he just needs to stop getting distracted by that new girl in the office and focus on his work. Lynn gave me a look when I frowned at Barry's remarks. He knew I've always been nothing but professional. I had told Lynn all about Amy, though I may have played down her looks. But Lynn knows I'm not into her. "What do you think we should do to teach him a lesson, Barry?" "Hey, let's just bang right in front of him." I was shocked. My brain was screaming at me to go up and kick the crap out of Barry, job or no job. Lynn looked like he had just been asked to eat a bucket of pig shit. I almost laughed at her disgusted face, but Barry seemed unfazed. "That's a lovely offer, Barry," she replied calmly. I knew she would never give in to him, I could tell. She went on to say, "I have 2 issues with your offer. Firstly, I know for sure that my partner would leave me in a heartbeat if I even thought about it. Secondly, I only have eyes for him. I think we should just let it go, move on, and live our lives. Lynn, he won't divorce you. Most guys actually fantasize about seeing their wife with another guy, but not me." I tried to speak up, but Barry kept talking like I wasn't even there. "If he does end up divorcing you, my love, he'll still support you living in this house until you move on with someone else, and then you'll get half of everything from him. If he divorces you, I will fire his ass and then he'll be scrambling to make those massive alimony payments you deserve. You've got him wrapped around your finger." "Look, Barry," she said, I love him and I know he loves me. Why would I want to screw him over? You wouldn't be screwing him over, you'd just be taking charge. She seemed hesitant, so he kept going. Are you seriously telling me, Lynn, that you enjoy having to get his permission before hanging out with your friends? Having to explain why you bought something nice for yourself? Are you for real? You're not ready to make him beg for you, Lynn. What I'm suggesting will give you total control over him. Just let me know if he's not playing by the rules and I'll destroy him. I can make sure he never works in advertising again and he'll have to take on multiple jobs just to stay out of jail. Plus, it'll spice up your love life big time. Imagine having any guy you want whenever you want. Jacko will figure out soon enough that his feelings for you. When you love him, he will be happy to see you fulfill all your fantasies. And when you let him enjoy your body, he will be so thankful that he will do anything to please you. You can't go wrong with Lynn, he's amazing. I thought his ideas were dumb. I was wondering how my wife would shut him down. I was sure he would fire me once she stood up to him, but it would be worth it. I would even go to his house at night, ring his doorbell, and beat him up. Needless to say, I was ready for anything. I was completely shocked when she asked, "What are we waiting for?" I just sat there in disbelief, expecting her to laugh and say it was a joke. Normally when Mom did that to me, she would use an old term like psyche. Even as they were undressing each other, I thought she would finally end the prank. But I got so angry and grabbed Barry by the collar, marching him out of my house. He was talking about firing me and suing me for assault. Lynn yelled from behind, "Darn it, Billy, you stop right there. What a mess. Come on, Lynn, you can't be serious. I know you can't stand that jerk. Seriously, Bill, you almost destroyed his business and he's not going to fire you. So, this is the least I can do. You need to stop this stupid nonsense right now, or else I will." "What, you're threatening to divorce me?" "Fine, we'll get divorced, and you can work your butt off in low-paying jobs. I'm trying to maintain a decent lifestyle to keep you out of jail, and I will press charges if you lay a hand on me. And don't think someone like Barry will bail you out. I was going to make things easy for you. Now you gotta come in and watch our stuff. You ain't gonna do nothing, just sit back and deal with it. You don't have any other choices, either cotton or jail. Come on, Lynn, let me show you how a real man treats a woman." I wish Lynn had wised up and kicked Barry out. I wish I could say she laughed at his tiny junk when all was said and done. Barry left, telling me to be on time for work in the morning. If I wasn't broke, I would have bought a gun that night and sent it to some people to meet Jesus. Lynn, she came out of the bedroom right after Barry left. I was sitting on a fancy new couch. "Bill, stop sulking, it's done for tonight, come to bed." "Screw you, I'm not sleeping in that bed again, I'll sleep on the couch." "I'm glad Barry doesn't turn you on, if he did you would have screwed him on the table and I wouldn't be able to eat." "Listen, Bill, I'm sorry but I didn't know he was talking about all the power I would have, which really turned me on. I think he's a disgusting pig. But he really pissed me off, I was ready to blow up. The way you hyped him up and made him feel like he was all that, it made it seem like you thought I was trash. And telling him he was better than me. That was way out of line, unless you've been lying about how great I am. And there's no way he was bigger than me, come on Bill, he wasn't exactly small either. The way you were acting, I would have thought you were sleeping with Long Tool McGee. I got a kick out of having power over you and making you feel ashamed. Seeing you all humble and weak turned me on, got me all energized. Talking about it gets me all worked up, come on over and let's get it on, baby. I really need it. Just keep it between us, don't tell Barry. Room 304. Every time I see you, I feel so betrayed, angry, and disgusted. No thanks, Bill. I bet Barry won't keep this going for much longer. It's been too long already. I'm stuck in a tough situation, that's why I'm still here. I have no other options. I tried to hold back tears as I told her, "You've humiliated me. Now I have to see that loser every day, knowing he thinks he's something special. Man, I thought I was a better lover than him, but I had to come to terms with the fact that he took the one thing in this world that I really cared about." I was lying on the couch with my arm covering my eyes when I heard her stumbling towards the bedroom. I couldn't even think straight. I knew there had to be a way out of this mess, but I just couldn't see it. I got to work early and started trying to get through my tasks. I was doing okay until Barry showed up and gave me this annoying grin. It took everything in me not to walk over and punch that smug face of his. I wasn't sure how I was gonna deal with it. I was gonna deal with the problem, but then some ideas started popping into my head after doing a bit of research on the internet. I figured out what steps I needed to take. First, I had to leave work early, which wasn't a big deal. I also needed Lynn to be at work, but she was probably there since Barry didn't wear her out. I spent most of my morning searching online for the tools I needed to get back at my wife. I might lose my job, but I won't lose my home. I found a bunch of places in Houston where I could get what I needed. Hey, around lunchtime I popped into Barry's office and told him I was heading out. He was like, "You never said you could leave early," and I was like, "Yes, you did. I had this appointment set up 3 weeks ago and told you about it." I was totally lying, but Barry never remembered anything. Jane always tricked him out of 3 weeks of vacation every year. He just stared at the wall for a minute before finally saying, "Okay, yeah, I remember. Go ahead, but you better be home when I come over tonight." What a mess. No one mentioned Jacko. It was planned last night. Maybe if you weren't sulking, you would have noticed. I have a surprise for you too. I know you hate me, but that just makes it better. I don't hate you, Barry, but I wouldn't even pee on you if you were on fire. Be at Jacko's at 6 o'clock, don't be late. Screw you, I muttered as I closed the office door. My first stop was an electronics store in town. I bought a bunch of mini cameras and microphones. The employee at the store showed me how to set them up. Alright, so this guy said all his stuff was motion activated and he sent the footage to a secure website so even if my computer got hacked, the videos would be safe. Next stop was this attorney's office. Paris was the weirdest name I'd ever heard for a lawyer, but apparently she was a pro at helping dudes with marriage problems. I spilled the whole story to her, including how I was gathering evidence. She said I didn't have to fess up about my spying because I was in the clear. I'm the only one who owns my stuff. She told me not to spill the beans until she had everything set up for the divorce filing. She also said I needed more evidence to back up my claims, according to Texas law. I could divorce her for being mean or cheating, which could be expensive. She gave me some other options to think about. I couldn't wait to rub it in Barry's face. When I got home, I set up the cameras. I put 3 in the bedroom and 2 in the dining room, and the other 2 I put somewhere else. I was in the living room, and managed to finish up in time to move my clothes to my office. I also grabbed a pillow and blanket from the closet in the hallway. Lynn only bought them because they were on sale. That closet was full of stuff she bought on a whim. After I put them in the office, I headed to a bar. When I got back home at 9 o'clock, Lynn was at the table sipping on some wine. I didn't say anything to her as I went to take my first shower since moving out of my parents' place. I locked the bathroom door and thought I heard a noise. Man, I was shook, but I wasn't too worried. I laughed, thinking I still had things under control and that she would soon see she had no power over me. I took my sweet time getting dressed and went straight to the office. A few minutes later, the door opened and Lynn walked in. In my head, I made a note to buy a lock for the office door. I had just logged onto my computer to check the footage my cameras had captured while I was away. I quickly closed the window when she sat on the edge of my desk. My heart ached because she had. She's done it so many times that she even sat in the corner of my desk a few times to let me know she was feeling frisky. The last thing I felt in my body was horniness. All I saw on my desk was a traitorous 304. She didn't say anything, just sat there staring at the wall. I looked at her and asked, "Have you never shut me out of your shower before?" She replied with a sniffle, "You've never completely disgusted me before. Were you coming to tell me about your undying love for Barry?" "It wasn't great," she said. "It was horrible." I got it. Man, he's such a jerk. I thought I was treating you badly, but turns out I had proof of him cheating for my lawyer. He was mad that you weren't around. I told him you had an emergency. I fell for his trick thinking it would be as good as last night, but it was terrible. So basically, you both enjoyed embarrassing me. I told him that without Bill to argue with, the excitement was gone. "Well, I thought you loved me," she complained. "I did, until you let Barry Masters come between us." She was raving about your legs last night, saying they were amazing. All I want is to have that same experience again, but you're being a selfish brat and refusing me. You're supposed to love me enough to help me reach sexual nirvana. It doesn't hurt you, maybe just your ego, but it's a huge turn-on for me. I could tell she was completely hooked on berries. I told her one last time to get out of my office, then I left the house. I ended up driving around aimlessly for a while and somehow ended up in Galveston on Friday night. I had the option to pick any bar, so I went to one that I hadn't been to before. Lynn and I used to go to Galveston a lot. We'd hang out at the beach all day and then hit up a bar. While I was there drinking, I saw Hank walk in. I remembered Hank from when he used to work for Barry, but he left to work at a local radio station 5 years ago. He spotted me and came over to where I was sitting. "Bill, long time no see. How's life in radio treating you?" I asked. "I can't complain, but I'm no longer with that jerk Barry, thankfully," Hank replied. "I heard that Walt left, you know. I haven't seen Walt in years. He came by the station a while back, asking for a job. He said Barry was messing up his life and he needed to get out." "Yeah, I've heard about that. I'm so tired of that loser Barry. Between you and me, I know Barry has driven away a lot of good people. When I worked with him, he messed around with 2 different guys' wives. Can you believe that crap? What really gets to me is that no one ever did anything about it. Then his company showed up and he said goodbye to me before leaving with them. His 2 buddies' wives. I figured I needed to have a chat with Walt. Maybe he wasn't trying to scare me that day, but just giving me a heads up before I left the bar. I asked Hank if he had Walt's contact info, but he said he didn't know. So, I headed home and crashed on the couch. I didn't see or hear Lynn, and honestly, I was fine with that. I was itching to talk to Walt, but in a big city like Houston, you can't just go knocking on doors until you find the right person. The solution came to me just as I was drifting off to sleep. When I woke up on Saturday morning, Lynn wasn't there. I went to Lowe's, got a lock set for my job, and put it in. I turned on my computer's cameras to see what they caught. I saw Lynn and Barry having sex for about 5 minutes. Barry kept saying sorry for not pleasing her. She told him she was fine and things would be better when I got back. She also mentioned Jacko and said she wanted to slap her for calling her that. She put up with it at work because she was getting paid. She wasn't going to let her call her that. Hey, when it comes to Jacko, maybe we should go easy on him. Let's stick to Tuesdays and Thursdays for now, okay? Barry said, that works for me. I'm usually busy most nights anyway. I just wanted to mess with Jacko a bit. Next time, we'll really surprise him, he added. I found all the video recordings and saw Barry sneaking into the house with a bag. He was talking about wanting to hook up with her on the couch, but she shut him down, saying no one messes with her couch. He said he brought a surprise for me, but because he and Lynn were so desperate to find love, he couldn't resist showing her what was in the bag as they hurried down the hallway. I didn't have a camera on hand, so the surprise remained a mystery. I was disappointed that I didn't know what it was. I spent the rest of the weekend avoiding Lynn, thinking she was at home. I tried my best to be out and about, and even spent Sunday evening at my office. She tried to tell me that Barry had come by on Saturday evening, but the video revealed the truth. She had actually been sitting. Barry's pretty cool because he's always down for a drink and a good time. The best part is, he's like clockwork, leaves the office at 5 o'clock on the dot every day and expects us to stick around until 5:30. Jane dips out at 10, and then everyone else follows suit, leaving the place empty by 5:20. Well, one Monday I found myself all alone in the office at 5:30. I decided to snoop around Barry's office and hopped on his computer. I knew his passwords because Jane had written them down for him in case he forgot. I unlocked the top drawer on her desk and was pleasantly surprised to find not only his passwords. I grabbed some sticky notes to write down some quick notes while I was checking out Barry's files on his computer. I got Walt's address and then logged out. I also approved Barry's vacation day for Wednesday on his calendar. I noticed that Jane had scheduled herself for a vacation the next week too. As I was heading out, I thought I heard someone in the office, but I didn't see anyone. I quickly looked around before leaving. On my way home, I stopped at a burger joint. Lynn doesn't like it when I eat fast food, so Man, Tuesday flew by pretty fast. Barry came over that night and I found a surprise in my office, a metal cage meant to cause me pain if I got too excited. It was also supposed to stop me from jerking off. Needless to say, they were pretty disappointed if they thought I'd be tortured by it. I hadn't gotten hard since the whole Barry drama started. Barry even brought up the idea of inviting Amy for a threesome. I wondered how he convinced her to join in. I got a laugh out of hearing Lynn coming to town with her. Yo, I found this cool toy and went to show Barry right after telling him about the study on Wednesday. I got Barry's address from his computer and rang the doorbell. The lady who answered the door used to be super hot, and still could be, but she looked really troubled. You could tell she was stressed. I felt bad asking for Walt. Her face showed how sorry she was when she told me where to find him. I thanked her and felt guilty. As she helped me and shut the door, tears were rolling down her face. I wanted to say something comforting, but I didn't know what was going on, so I just kept going with my mission. I found Walt exactly where she said he would be, staying in a room at a sketchy motel near the state. It wasn't even a place where the hookers would take their clients, but it was probably affordable. I knocked on the door and was taken aback when a messy version of Walt answered. He was wearing a dirty tank top and cargo shorts. Man, that dude looked like he was wearing clothes 5 sizes too big. He backed away from the door like he was some vampire afraid of sunlight. Jacko, what the hell are you doing here? I tried to talk to you at your place but ended up here instead. His face dropped when he saw me. Barry must have sent you, didn't he? Dang it, I should have warned you before coming. I should have risked getting arrested just to give you a heads up in front of Barry. I walked into the room where Walt was staying. There was a sad little bed in the middle, surrounded by a beat-up couch on one side and a small. Hey Jacko, there's a table and 2 shaky chairs over there. Some of the stuff going on with you is kinda my fault. How could it be your fault, Walt? You left before Barry started causing trouble with me. Let me tell you a little story, Jacko. I knew from the get-go that Barry wanted to hook up with Marin. There's just something about that guy, he always has to do stuff like that, even if the woman isn't even that attractive. I worked for Barry for 12 years, and when I first got there, a dude named Jarvis was in your position. Jarvis and I were basically the dream team, along with Jane. I ended up marrying Jarvis. So there was this girl from humble Jarvis who had a thing for him even though she wasn't all that good-looking. Barry, on the other hand, tried hitting on Jarvis's wife at the office Christmas party one year. I bailed before it kicked off, but I heard all about it later on. Jarvis almost ended up in the hospital after Barry got to him. When we got back to work the following Monday, Jarvis was nowhere to be found and Barry was still sporting some bruises. Barry brought in Hank Shaw and ended up replacing Jarvis with some college kid. Can't remember the new guy's name, but I do know Barry had a chat with his wife. So, this dude quit and they brought in this guy named Steve Harkin to replace him. But then Steve left a year later. Did you end up taking over for Steve? I heard that Barry reached out to Steve's wife. Barry figured out how to get guys' wives to cheat on them without getting caught, like Jarvis did. But unfortunately, I soon found out how he was pulling it off. Right after Hank quit, Barry called me into his office and told me I messed up on an ad. He had spent all morning trying to save our client from ditching us and making a scene. Yo, so I gotta make things right with them. Dude said he discussed my future while we were eating dinner. I was supposed to bring my wife and meet him at a nearby hotel. This scumbag just invited himself over to my place for dinner. What the hell happened? Did you screw something up, by the way? And what's the deal with the cars? I accidentally put the wrong price in the ad. Funny thing is, I don't even remember changing it. But I could feel that something wasn't right. Barry told Mary he wouldn't fire me if she agreed to cook for me. He told her that if I didn't work for him for 3 years, I wouldn't stand a chance if he kept hooking up with her 3 times a week. One night, I bumped into Joan and spilled the beans about Barry cheating on my wife. Little did I know, they were into swinging. Barry showed up the next night and told me his wife found out about our chat. He then ordered Marin to stop taking birth control, saying I deserved to raise his kid if I tried to break up his marriage. I called out his nonsense in his office that morning and said enough was enough. He threatened to call the shots from now on. So, after he got Marin pregnant, he told me he's gonna come after your wife. You know the deal. Now I'm stuck in this crappy place while I try to divorce my wife. Not sure what to do next. Have you divorced Marin yet? Nah, not yet. I think I can hurt her more by not divorcing her and never paying alimony. Wish I had proof of her cheating when I left. When I told Walt about my plan, he was thrilled. Promised to keep in touch. Shared just enough to make him happy, but not everything. Yo, if Barry finds out, it's gonna be a disaster. I was feeling pretty chill as I drove aimlessly towards my crib. It was like early afternoon and I really didn't want to be home when Lynn showed up. As I turned onto this big street, I saw something that looked hella familiar. Even though I'd never been there before, I recognized it from a pic I saw while working for Barry. There was this huge, cartoonish sign that said, "and motors," that caught my eye. When I pulled into the lot, I was greeted by 4 hyped-up salespeople and this tall dude with a sick handlebar mustache. With his ridiculous oversized cowboy hat and the way he talked, we easily left the other struggling salesman behind. "What can I do for ya?" he asked with such a thick accent that it had to be fake. "Name Sam Colt. Which of these cars can I hook you up with today?" Sam Colt, are you serious? It's no wonder people think Texans are dumb, I thought as he shook my hand. Well Sam, I was wondering how I can get in on the drawing for the $500 prize. Okay, we don't do $500 prizes, we never draw less than $5,000. You can enter for free by. Basically, all I did was agree to listen to a sales pitch over the phone, sign up for some junk mail, and join their mailing list. Or I could buy a car and get 1 entry for every $1,000 spent. So, I walk into my office at 5:30 and suddenly it hits me I've been tricked into something. I was so mad and I was on a mission to find evidence to expose them. I planned to reach out to the last 2 guys who had been screwed over by Barry like this. I went through all the employee files until I found Steve Embry and Kenny Lawrence, the ones I was looking for. I was snooping around their college alumni group data on Barry's computer, not really worried about leaving a digital trail. It was around 6 o'clock when I glanced at my watch, so I knew I had a few hours before the cleaning crew showed up at 9 o'clock. I started going through some financial files and digging into Barry's bookkeeping. I was looking for receipts from some newbies, but couldn't find any payments from them on Barry's computer. Just as I was eagerly searching for more info, I heard someone ask, "Have you found anything yet?" Hey, did you find anything good? When I turned around, I looked into Amy Stewart's icy blue eyes. I was caught red-handed. I was at work after hours, on the boss's computer, with confidential files scattered around. I was speechless. Amy's expression was unreadable. I had no clue if she was going to snitch on me or go crazy on Barry's desk. Then, without thinking, I spilled my guts. I told her about Barry screwing me over and ruining a few marriages. Trying to chill out, she asked again, "Did you find anything to bury this jerk?" Amy and I bailed from the office before the cleaners showed up and grabbed some grub at a nearby restaurant by her place. We compared notes and by the end of it, she spilled her whole life story to me. I found out some stuff that completely changed what I was working on. Plus, now I had a partner in crime. PM and Sons didn't mean what I thought it did. It actually referred to Burkhardt Marwitz and Sons, a company started by Jefferson Burkhardt and Jacob Marowitz in the 1970s. So, basically, when Jefferson's kid and Jacob's 2 boys were old enough to work, they started working at the advertising agency. After they finished college, Dennis Burkhardt was like, "Nah, I'm not feeling this advertising gig," and joined the Air Force. Jacob's oldest son stayed at the firm, but the youngest son wanted to do his own thing. Fast forward 5 years, and the youngest son got locked up for selling coke. Jacob's health went downhill during the court mess, so he ended up stepping down from Beam and Sons. His oldest son ended up taking over the business. So basically, after some shady business and drama with the law, Jacob's youngest son finally got back to his legal work, which everyone knew was just a front for smuggling coke into Houston. Jefferson was now in charge of the agency with Jacob's son Barry. Barry changed his name from Marwitz to Masters to keep a low profile from his drug-dealing brother. One day, Barry hit up Jefferson saying he messed up an ad and had to spend 2 days fixing it and kissing butt. So, to keep from losing a big client, he decided to use that mistake to kick Jefferson out of the company. Jefferson's daughter Margie ended up marrying Peter Stewart, and now they have a daughter named Amy. Barry has been pulling this kind of crap for a while now, that's for sure. My grandpa admitted he messed up the ad, but there's no way Barry should have pulled that kind of stunt on him. I bet the ad was for beginners, right? Yep, it was. And do you know who owns those motorcycles? Alan Marwitz. I brought that up earlier, but you probably didn't catch that in your story. He and Barry were brothers, but I knew they were working together. I only pay for the materials for their ads. Amy told me how many times Barry asked her out, but she always said no. She could tell he was getting mad. I think that's why he stopped me from working closely with you, Billy. After we shared all our info, we came up with a plan and called it a night. I got home around midnight. I went to check on Lynn and found her sleeping with my old pillow, cuddled up tight like she was spooning it. I didn't feel sorry for her at all. It actually made me feel better knowing I wasn't facing Barry alone. Amy was happy that I found out so much and that there was a way to get back at him. She had been planning to put up with his crap for a few more years until she had enough dirt to take him down. I ended up getting a break for Thursday night. Barry told me to tell Lynn he was sorry but he had a big meeting and would be gone all weekend. Call yourself a loser, I thought to myself. After he left the office, I went home that night and mowed my lawn. I also spent some time messing around in the garage. Lynn was wearing a sexy new negligee when I stepped into the shower. "Do you want some?" she asked me. I laughed and said, "You're wasting your time, lover boy. I had a meeting and decided to cancel tonight." Lynn didn't hesitate and replied, "I could take advantage." I just laughed. "What's so funny?" she asked. "You think I want someone else's leftovers?" "That's a joke." "What do you mean by someone else's leftovers?" I asked. "Hey, remember your wife? Are you forgetting about that sketchy jerk who was gonna mess you up tonight? The same loser you decided to hook up with just to hurt me for fun. Screw you, I want nothing to do with your messed up situation." She stormed off to the bedroom and I just took a shower. I grabbed my pillow and plopped down on the couch. She must have been pissed 'cause I didn't hear her come back until almost midnight the next morning. Amy hit me up at work, all smiles, asking, "Guess who's stuck working on the M shift? Did you see that Motors advertisement today? It's bigger than a bread box, hilarious. I want you to check it out after I'm done. I'm sure Barry has something in mind for me. Did you know he invited me to go to Florida with him this weekend?" I shook my head and told him I had plans already. Then he got all worked up and told me that the AM Motors account was mine. What a jerk, couldn't handle it any other way so he had to pull some power move. He just hopes you don't back down. Well, I'm not giving up. I've got plans of my own, she added, winking. Going back to her desk after everyone else had gone home for the day, I checked out Amy's work like she asked. It seemed like the same old stuff we've been printing. I made copies of the info pages and snapped a photo of her in action. "So, any plans for the weekend?" she asked me, brushing off the fact that I have a wife. I responded, "You know, plans. I have some extra space if you want to avoid her completely. I'm not selling myself, but we could have a good time this weekend." And we sure did have a blast. My idea of fun started when I ignored Lynn's objections while packing up. Backpack, I even packed my work clothes for Monday just in case I decided not to come home till late. It echoed through the house, asking where I would be. Not here, that's for sure. If I could speak other languages, I would have said more to her. But as long as she didn't speak them fluently, I kept it simple. My grandpa taught me some Polish swear words, but I didn't want to cuss her out. She was crying as I left. I know people might call me a loser, but I couldn't stay with a lady who enjoyed making me miserable. I wanted to see her reaction when she realized she called my phone and found it on the couch. Amy and I had a great weekend. When I got to her place, she came out with an overnight bag and told me to drive. After walking a bit, I asked if we had a destination or if we were just running away. She laughed and said we were going to a friend's house on Lake Conroe. Her friends had a nice house and I knew Lynn would want to sell if she saw it. Yeah, our place ain't exactly like the fancy ones in Woodlands or the Heights, but it's still pretty great. She used to whine about it, but she's finally stopped. We hung out on their boat last Saturday. I had a few beers with Tony and tried not to ogle Amy and Kathy in their bikinis. When Amy wanted to water ski, I think we were both secretly hoping for a wardrobe malfunction. That night, Tony made an epic Texas barbecue with tons of food and beer. More of their friends showed up and everyone had a good time. Hey, I had a blast. Amy introduced me to all her friends as her buddy, while Tony and Kathy introduced us as Amy's pals. I was stoked when one of the girls pulled Amy aside and told her not to let me go because I was a catch. I saw the look on her face and made sure she didn't catch me checking her out. We each had our own room on Friday night because Tony and Kathy were hosting another couple from Baytown who had driven in. They asked if I would mind crashing on the sofa so they could have the bed. I drove all the way back, but honestly I wouldn't have cared if I just stayed home and chilled on the couch. Kathy left to grab a pillow and blanket, and I noticed the couch was the same one from my living room. I could hear Kathy talking to someone, but couldn't make out what she was saying or who she was talking to. All I heard was her saying, "Okay, good night," before the bedroom door shut. I waited for Kathy to come back, but instead Amy showed up and said, "Hey, I've got a full-sized bed. Billy, there's no need for you to crash on the couch. I know you'll be a good guy." I saw her and knew there was no point in arguing, so I just followed her to the bedroom. She was wearing a long t-shirt to sleep in, and I couldn't tell if she had on panties or shorts underneath. I had on shorts, so I wasn't worried about any accidental touching. The thought of being a gentleman kept running through my mind as I woke up in the morning, with Amy casually snuggled up to me, holding onto her right boob. I tried to free my hand and she grabbed it. "Not yet, Billy," she said, half asleep. She sighed and pushed into me harder. "I can't wait, can't wait, can't wait for what?" I wanted to ask. However, she had resumed her light snoring. I woke up later alone in bed. For a few moments, I laid there taking in her scent on the pillow next to me. I got up and showered. I found everyone on the deck eating bacon, eggs, and coffee. Amy had a big smile on her face as I sat across from her. We all made small talk while eating. I felt slightly embarrassed and kept noticing Amy staring at me. Amy and I dipped out early in the afternoon. I thanked Tony and Kathy for being so damn nice, and Kathy said we'd catch up again soon. I figured they were just good folks and didn't dwell on it much. We talked on the way home, going over our plan. I was sure Barry would make his move on Monday, so we also talked about what to do if he tries to make me hook up with him solo. I'll just fire his ass then and there. I'll also drop some truth bombs. You won't have to go through it alone, I got your back. I know you got mine too, Billy. I glanced over at her as she said she had a smile on her face that I couldn't figure out, then it hit me she had been calling me Billy. I tried to remember when she started calling me that but I couldn't, I just loved the sound of it. We went back to Amy's place and I carried her suitcase to the door. "Billy, you can crash here tonight if you want." "I won't bite," she said. It was an easy choice between staying with Amy or going home to hear Lynn's bullshit. Amy gave me a strange look when I brought her suitcase. So, in my work clothes, she was like, "Can I crash at your place on Sunday night too?" I laughed and said yeah, but I was low-key thinking about getting a hotel room instead of dealing with Lynn's drama. I was planning to crash on Amy's couch, but she wasn't having it. I have a queen bed but only use half of it. We slept together last night, but nothing happened, so let's do it again. She had this weird look on her face, but when she caught me staring, she smiled. "I know you're still married, and I don't want you to leave. Hey Billy, you're a great guy and all, but I gotta admit, waking up in your arms this morning was pretty nice." We fell asleep in the same clothes from the night before. I was in shorts and she was wearing a long shirt. But when we woke up, things were a bit different. I opened my eyes to find her face buried in my chest, legs draped over my hip, one hand on my chest, and the other wrapped around me. My arms were wrapped around her too, but luckily there was some space between our crotches. It was like heaven. I wish it could last forever. Man, I just want to keep her in that spot forever, with the smell of her hair in my nose and her warm, soft body snuggled up against mine. Barry didn't just take my wife, he took my friend and partner too. I don't know what to do now, but I know it's done with Lynn. I can't even look at her without feeling embarrassed and betrayed. Amy seems great, but I don't think she'd want someone 7 years older and jobless like me. I slept until Amy's alarm went off, so we all got up and took turns in the bathroom. I took a shower first and got dressed while she was still in the shower. I wanted to get to the office before Jane or anyone else. Just as I was about to leave, Amy came out of the bathroom with a towel on her head and a big bathrobe on. I felt a bit awkward telling her I'd see her at work. There was something in her expression, but I couldn't figure it out. She just grinned and told me to hurry up. I ended up getting to the office 15 minutes early. Everyone else finished up their stuff in like 5 minutes, so I did too. Then I grabbed some coffee and went to work. Everyone showed up within half an hour. Amy gave me this really strange look when she walked over to her desk. And of course, Barry was the last one to show up. He just went straight to his office without saying a word to anyone. After lunch, he talked to Amy, but I couldn't hear or see anything from where Barry's office was. About 20 minutes later, Amy went back to work. I didn't catch a glimpse of her, so I had no clue how she was feeling. But I did notice Barry had a little bounce in his step. He had a spring in his step when he left because everyone else had gone by 5, so I waited for another 10 minutes before doing some stuff and heading home. Lynn wasn't there when I got back, so I chucked all my weekend clothes in the washing machine before going to the office. When I checked the security cameras, I saw that Lynn didn't leave until that morning when she went to work. I deleted the video of Lynn masturbating and listened to the audio in the 2 videos of her using her phone. The first one was. Her Aunt Lily didn't say anything about our issues, so I moved on. I wasn't sure who she was talking to, but I heard her say, "You what?" and then she said, "That will be so hot, I need a hot night." I heard Lynn come home as I was finishing up, so I opened my web browser and acted like I was really into some article. After a few minutes, I felt her staring at me from the doorway. "Can we talk?" she asked. "You can," I told her, "but I've got nothing to say to you. I missed you this weekend." "I didn't miss you, why? Do you really have to act like this? Do I have to remind you that you ruined our marriage and you think I'm wrong for being a little annoyed about it?" "I didn't ruin our marriage, Barry and I are actually making our marriage better. If you want, I can talk to him about not making you wear your cage. When did you become such an idiot? Barry must have screwed all the brains out of you. The only thing that's satisfying is knowing what a jerk I married. Get out of my office, the only time we need to see each other or acknowledge each other. Barry's out here fulfilling your love fantasies, so I don't need to hear about your drama or be reminded of your toxic behavior. That cage you put me in is as useless as you are. I don't need it to keep me in check, especially when you and your sidekick are around." Getting turned on is the last thing on my mind when she stormed out of my office in tears. But then, Amy's text came through and actually made me smile. It was short and sweet, just saying, "It's on. Barry asked me if I'm leaving on time this Tuesday, but I've got some things to take care of first. So, I'll be running about 30 minutes late. I told him Amy wasn't at work, so I might need an extra half an hour. He didn't find it sketchy, so that's good. I'll grab some food at the Royal Fork, but I expect you and Lynn to be ready when I get there. And Jacko, ready ASAP." Once everyone was gone, I packed up my stuff in a box, wrote my resignation letter, and left it on Jane's desk. I took one last look around and realized I wouldn't miss the place at all. When I got home, Barry was. So, I walk in and Lynn tries to kiss me, but I shut her down. She's in a short silk robe with stockings underneath. "Where have you been?" I was worried. I didn't say anything, just walked into my living room. Barry's sitting on the couch, sipping a glass of wine. "I've been waiting for 10 minutes, Jacko. A man who wants to keep his happy home and job shouldn't keep the guarantor of both waiting. But have a glass of wine, we're waiting for a special guest." I saw a look pass. So, it was just me, Barry, and Lynn hanging out, chillin'. I grabbed a beer from the kitchen while Barry gave me this nasty look. I could tell he was about to say something, but then the doorbell rang. Lynn went to answer it, and Barry's face lit up with a smug grin. I overheard Lynn welcoming someone at the door, and then saw Amy walk in with her. Barry started boasting, saying how Amy messed up big time on his account just like Jacko did. "Looks like she's in trouble now. Hey Jacko, if you join us, you're in for a treat even though you haven't earned it. I'm gonna bang all these hot chicks in front of you." Lynn looked worried. Even though she's beautiful, she's nothing compared to Amy who's a decade younger. Barry can't take his eyes off Amy. "Let's get this party started." When Lynn called me Jacko, I could see Amy was not happy. Barry was disappointed that Lynn was making him go first, he was dying to get with Amy. "Yo, grab some of Amy," as we all walked down the hall. I checked my phone and saw the texts I was hoping for right before we got to the bedroom. Amy asked where the bathroom was and I showed her. She smiled and thanked me, then I noticed she had a little bag with her. I was ready to do my part in the evening's fun. Lynn took off her robe and all she had on was a garter belt and stockings. I saw Barry's face light up and I wanted to punch him. Despite all the pain Lynn had caused me, I still. Man, she had a hot body. I took off my shirt and started to undo my pants. Can't wait for Amy to see this, I muttered under my breath, but loud enough for them to hear. Both Barry and Lynn's expressions changed. Lynn went from looking lustful to angry, and Barry went from lustful to scared. I let my pants drop and stood there, ready for whatever. I'm ready for my punishment, I said. Barry's face changed again. I have something better than a punishment, he said, reaching into a shopping bag. I didn't realize until he brought out a pair of black leather shorts. These will make it impossible for you to jerk off, he said as he threw them at me. I quickly put them on. You better hurry before that girl comes out of the bathroom, Jacko whispered. Yeah, save yourself from a little embarrassment, Barry chimed in. I couldn't resist poking back at him, you would know all about embarrassment. He glared at me, ready to say something, when the bathroom door opened and Amy walked out. I thought I was going to. Damn, I heard Lynn gasp and Barry groan when I quickly pulled up those tight leather shorts, but they were definitely a size or two too small. I wasn't fast enough to stop Amy from seeing what I was packing. Amy looked absolutely amazing in a baby blue corset with black lace underwear to match. Her cleavage could revive a dead man, and her tanned legs were bare all the way down to the blue pumps on her feet. The smile on her face was just the cherry on top. She was so hot she could have melted ice. Lynn noticed and quickly said, Barry, she saw Jacko before he pulled his shorts up. Barry wasn't really paying attention, he just gave her a dismissive yeah and kept staring wide-eyed at Amy. I thought he was going to go all daydreamy and start touching himself. Barry, get over here and screw me, it's been so long since I've had a man, Lynn said. I almost laughed, she was trying so hard to get things back on track. Barry finally snapped out of it and dropped his trousers. Amy almost laughed at his pathetic tool. She was like, oh my god, when Barry got on the bed and started messing with Lynn's boobs. She screamed like he shocked her with a cattle prod. At the same time, I opened and closed the blinds a couple of times. I looked over and saw Amy giving me a curious smile, so I winked at her. Meanwhile, Barry and Lynn were getting all hot and heavy on the bed. Then all of a sudden, there were some small explosions outside. Living in a crazy neighborhood, man. Yo, so I live near all these damn refineries, and every now and then you hear explosions. The other day, I heard the sixth one go off and Amy freaked out, asking what the hell was that. I quickly threw on my pants over my leather shorts and rushed down the hallway. When I opened the front door, I yelled out, damn it, Barry, your car is messed up. All 4 tires were flat, and the windshield and rear window were all cracked up like a spider web. There was no way to tell what had happened. Barry came running down my hallway, looking all worried and stopped in his tracks. I don't know if smashing his fancy car made him stop or if he suddenly remembered he was but naked, but it didn't matter. I just shoved my foot in the middle of his back and sent him flying over my porch and onto my walkway. Then I slammed the door shut. I could hear him yelling something, but I didn't give a damn. That's when Lynn came out of the hallway. She had the sense to throw on her robe before coming to see what was going on. Where's Barry? She asked, then she saw there were 2 other people in the living room. I had let them in. Yo, so I was like, yelling about Barry's car, right? And then these random people showed up. Jacko, who the hell are they? What's going on? Asked a lady in a fancy suit. When Lynn confirmed her identity, the lady asked to see her ID. Lynn showed her driver's license and then the lady handed her a stack of papers, saying, you've been served. Lynn's face went pale as she looked at the papers in shock. Amy came out of the hallway with Barry's clothes in a shopping bag, having put them back on him. So, this dude showed up at my place in the evening, serving me some papers. He said his goodbyes and left. I stepped outside and spotted Barry trying to hide on my porch. A bunch of nosy people had gathered to see what was going on and were chuckling at Barry. The guy serving the papers went up to Barry and asked, are you Barry Masters? I chimed in, yup, he's here, and showed his ID. The server handed him a bunch of papers and said, "You've been served." I could have sworn she was snickering as she walked away. Then, Amy dropped Barry's bag. "Jacko Barry, you messed up big time with those clothes," whispered. "I'll get you for accusing me of assaulting you. That process server saw you running out and tripping on your own feet. Check the papers, buddy, you're the one who messed up. You're fired, Jacko. Don't bother showing up for work tomorrow. Screw you, Barry. Jane already has my resignation letter." I was about to say something else when the cops pulled up. Barry screamed at them that I had assaulted him, but no one else backed up his story. All they did was write him a ticket for being indecent. I was so pissed when the tow truck showed up for Barry's car before he even checked the paperwork. I went back inside and found Lynn crying on the couch. "Where are you going, Lynn?" I asked. "I don't get it, where are you going?" She replied, "I can't be here anymore and I'm not leaving, Bill baby. I don't want a divorce, I love you and only you." But then she hit me with, "Unfortunately, you don't love me. If you did, we wouldn't be in this mess. You got all worked up and horny thinking about embarrassing me and then you screwed Barry. Our marriage is done. At that moment, but you'll lose everything. Barry was lying to us, Lynn. I own this house, it was in my name before we got married so it's mine. I filed for divorce citing adultery and cruelty. My lawyer says with the evidence I've given her, I shouldn't lose much in this divorce. We did also file for irreconcilable differences if you just want to sign it and get this over with. It offers you 30% of our assets and I won't take any of your debt." Cruelty. How can you claim cruelty when you were cheating on me with Barry right in front of my face? You're being a real jerk to me, filming everything I do. I even caught you and Tiny Tim on camera when I wasn't there. But now that Barry fired you, you're gonna need my money. I don't care about that though. If you need help, I'll help you carry your stuff to the car, but you better hurry up. Amy and I are gonna have some alone time on the couch." Lynn ran out to her car screaming and left. Over the next few weeks, she slowly moved her stuff out. She ended up moving in with one of her co-workers who needed a roommate. My roommate needed help paying rent, so we ended up splitting everything 70/30ths. Luckily, I didn't have to use any blackmail on her. She just asked for the furniture. A few years later, I ran into Lynn. She had gained some weight but still looked good. She was with a guy and they had a baby stroller. I don't think she noticed me, but I was cool with that. I managed to find all of Barry's old employees. Out of the 7 I talked to, 4 joined my lawsuit against him for sexual harassment. Stephen and Kenny were in. Everyone was super pumped up about it, even Jane hopped on board with Walton and Mary and signed up too. Marin didn't ask for a big piece of the pie, but she wanted to speak up in court. When Joan realized that Barry was in deep trouble, she quickly filed for divorce hoping to get her share before things got messy. But when it was pointed out that she was involved in Barry's shady dealings, she was told her share of assets would have to wait until after the lawsuit was settled. During the trial, investigators found some sketchy stuff with Barry's story, and when they dug a little deeper, they uncovered lots of money coming in for BM and Sons and Motors, along with a ton of cocaine. Alan bolted just before the DEA could nab him. Barry got busted right outside the courtroom. Joan got arrested later and had 5 ounces of cocaine on her when they got her. After all the legal stuff was sorted out, the government took everything Barry, Joan, and his brother had left. We all ended up with $200,000 each from the settlement. Barry got a 30-year sentence and Joan got 10. Alan showed up later at a meeting in Colombia. "Yo, so there was this dumpster all messed up with its throat cut on the same night that Lynn got fired." I straight up told her that me and Amy were gonna hook up on her couch. Honestly, I had no plans to hook up with Amy, but I knew just the idea of us messing up Lynn's white couch would really piss her off. Amy already knew I was gonna confess my feelings for her, but my tight leather shorts were holding me back. So I just leaned on the back of the couch, feeling like everything I had been working towards just slipped away. Everything just hit me all at once and I felt like I just wanted to crumble and let life pass me by. I didn't have a wife or a job, and I was counting on winning a lawsuit, but who knows how long that will take. The future that seemed so promising just moments ago now looked bleak and scary. I was standing there crying when Amy hugged me. I felt like a wuss crying in front of Amy, but she didn't seem to care. It's all done, Billy. She can't mess with you anymore. After a while, I started to feel a bit better. Hey, I saw Amy wearing that corset again. When did you switch back to that? I asked her while you were busy fixing the veil. Which one do you prefer? I almost told her it wasn't right to tease me with something I couldn't have, but I accidentally let it slip out and said, not at the moment, it's just reminding me I'm stuck in these darn shorts. I can help with that, she said. I thought she would put her clothes back on, but instead she started unbuckling my belt and pulling down my pants. I must have looked confused, but I thought to myself, I want this. Hey Billy, I've had a crush on you since the day I met you. When Jean spilled the beans about Barry, I knew I could end up with you. Last weekend was amazing, and I want all my weekends to be like that, especially waking up with you. I had no clue you felt the same way. How did Jane know? Turns out Jane is my aunt, married to Uncle Dennis. She used to work for my grandpa and Barry's dad before she met my uncle. She even changed her name on her personal record so Barry couldn't track her down. So, basically, Walt called her right after he left and warned her to be careful around you. She was eavesdropping on the intercom when Barry invited himself to dinner, which is why she had Barry's password handy. She even told me how much she likes you, right before she kissed me. Next thing I knew, her tight leather shorts were off. So, even though I thought I had lied to Lynn about hooking up with Amy on the couch, Amy made sure to set the record straight. When we got tired, we headed back to her place. Neither of us wanted to sleep in the bed where Barry had screwed Lynn. Amy and I used our lawsuit winnings to buy a house near Tony and Kathy. I hired a company to take care of the house for me, making sure we have good renters in there. Amy was cool with me holding on to it, she saw it as a safety net for me. We also own a big advertising agency with her Uncle Dennis. It's the type of place Barry could only dream about running. Walt and Jane. So basically, Jane and I both work. Jane just likes keeping busy. Amy and I split the day-to-day tasks between us. We're never in the office together though. When one of us is at work, the other is at home with our 2-year-old son, Jefferson David, who's named after his great-grandpa and my dad. We also have a 5-year-old daughter named Sad Marie after our moms. The best part is waking up snuggled with my soulmate. Her body got even better after having kids, and she always makes me feel loved and secure. Man, I really couldn't ask for anything else in life. Thanks for listening to my story today. If you liked this essay, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And hey, if you've got a story to share about your own or someone else's situation, don't hesitate to reach out. Take care.